Hello everyone. Today we have another DDB update. So I'm going to be talking about some of the updates going on over at the DDB. You can see right here I have the update changelog, which is pretty exciting. So as you can see, there's too many decks for me to possibly talk about. So I'm just going to talk about the ones that either I was involved in or I'm particularly excited about. So let's hop into it. So first up, we have one of the lists I'm most excited about, which is Leptis's Timna Turbotide deck. So this is a deck that's really interesting. It focuses a lot on High Tide, Bowls of Citadel, Aethervox Reservoir, Mind's Desire. Uh, I'm not sure if it's still on Time Spiral or not, but these are the kind of cards we're talking about. I've done a few videos with Leptis on the topic, although I'm not sure all of them have come out because sometimes we go off in space and just it takes too long to talk about the topic. But I know there is a Greedy Keeps that is out and it was really popular, so obviously I have to mention the deck again. I've seen him win a lot of games with the deck, and it has so many cool interactions where you have a Bowls of Citadel, and you flip over a Mind's Desire, you cast the Mind's Desire. Between each Mind's Desire copy trigger, you cast the top card of your deck, so you're storming off at instant speed, and uh, it's really cool. It's a really fun deck to play, and Timna and Malcolm are super powerful. I have a deck list that got accepted under Brewer's Corner that we'll be talking about in just a sec, and I've been really impressed by the pair, so really excited to see this come up. This is one of the spiciest decks on the Brewer's Corner, and I hope it sticks around. Next up, we have T-Rog, one of Anno's more recent brews. It's a Rograk and Teverzat red-black storm deck. You're playing your Stitcher Suppliers, your Underworld Breaches, your Lotus Petals, your Lion's Eye Diamonds, your Jeweled Lotuses, and so you get to play a red-black Turbonaz deck, and then you have this insane value engine in the command zone of Teverzat plus Rograk. So if you're not familiar, the really interesting interaction here is every time you sack Rograk, you draw 3 cards because it is your commander. Additionally, you can always just pay, 2 more mana and then 4 more mana for Rograk. So it's very possible, you jam out a Teverzat on turn 1 or turn 2. Maybe even you'll do things like play your Lion's Eye Diamond and crack it. You're really a turbo deck. You're really trying to dig really fast. And so you'll do that. You'll play a Rograk. You'll sack it to draw 3 cards. Next turn, you might pay 2 mana to draw 3 more cards. Now you've drawn 6 cards. Doesn't sound like a lot, but the bomb potential is really high in this deck. And so just having an LED in your graveyard and being able to draw into a Demonic Tutor that finds Underworld Breach is really powerful. So I'm really impressed by this commander pair. There's really a lot of options now. This deck got helped out by Bergie quite a bit because now you have like a third-ish copy of Ad Nauseam. So and you play your commander, you make a mana. That's still pretty sick. So I like this. I think this is a really spicy list, and I think if people really start paying more attention to it, it could really get tuned up and be taken to the next level. I'll take any opportunity to talk about pirates. I'll take any opportunity to talk about my pirate deck. So I obviously get to talk about Pirate Thief. This is one of the more fun decks I've been playing lately. It's a Esper Nas deck that's also a mid-range deck. It's like one of the old man decks. You play a you play like a mid-range turbo deck that's like a lot like Opus Thief, I'd say. Except we're not as disruptive using wheels. We're more disruptive by just playing card advantage engines and countering spells, which Tim and Malcolm are really good at. One of the problems I've found that red does help with, but one of the problems I've found is that a lot of times when you're playing these Opus Thief decks, you just want to have a lot of mana, and it's very hard to make a lot of mana because you need to draw into it, and you can't always have it, and sometimes you sacrifice explosive starts for low card quality. What I like about this deck is because you have Malcolm in the command zone, once you make 3 mana, you can really just start ramping every turn, holding up quite a bit of mana. If you get a pirate or 2 out, there aren't many pirates, there's really only 2 other pirates in the deck, but if you get one of those 2 pirates out and you start hitting people with them, you can really start feeling like you're really doing some crazy stuff. And Timna draws lots of cards, so having an evasive commander in the command zone with Timna, really powerful. Probably better than having 2 Timnas in my opinion, if you've looked at the Sakashima lists. And, it having evasion, making treasures, it's pretty sweet. A lot of times you can, play a turn 2 Malcolm, play a turn 3 Timna, hold up a mana after you attack and draw a card, and that's a pretty good spot to be in. It's not great, but, you can hold up a Flusterstorm or a Spell Snare or a Vampiric Tutor, and that's a a lot of times, if you can live through that, which you can start to really start threatening some stuff. So I really like the deck, and I like these like mid range decks that get to play some stacks pieces and Adnals. Like that's a really nice place to be. I've won games where I've cast a turn one Adnals with this deck. It's not easy, but it can happen, especially if you get like a Praetor's Grasp and quite a few rituals. You might get a Dockside, then you can start doing some crazy stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this deck, and I'm happy to see it on the Brewers Corner. I hope I can get on the DDB properly soon. Next up, we have Orvar Storm, which is on one of the brews for Orvar. So we've seen a lot of really cool interest in Orvar as time has gone on, and a lot of really interesting combos have come together. I'm not sure if this list is on all the ones I'm familiar with, or if it's on ones I'm not familiar with, but overall, I've been really impressed by the deck. I think it has a lot of game in like long grindy games. Has a lot of interesting synergies with like permanents that cause card advantage. So Rhystic Study and Mystic Gamora obviously very powerful. Being able to make, if you're holding up 3 or 4 mana, right? You got a Rhystic Study in play. You're already feeling really good. But if you've got like a Twiddle effect in your hand that lets you make a copy of Rhystic Study at instant speed, hey, someone's about to go off, you say, all right, they're going to let me have this second Rhystic Study. They're not going to counter the ad nauseum. They're going to, let me have the second Rhystic Study. And your opponent's just not going to be able to fight through you having 2 open mana and 2 Rhystic Studies in play. It's just not going to happen. Even if the ad nauseum resolves, it's just not very close. It's hard to win there. So, yeah, I'm very, very impressed with Orvar so far. Even if that little scenario I just made up doesn't sound too great to you, I think you can understand having 2 Rhystic Studies is pretty good. Having 3 Mystic Remoras is quite strong. And then the combos are pretty linear. I mean, a lot of times you can just win if you resolve a Spellseeker and have enough resources on the battlefield already. And, we've already seen, decks like Inala do pretty well with that. Obviously, this deck is not as good as Inala because you're in mono blue. There's really nothing you can do about that. But, still having a linear combo is always a great place to be in. Having great card advantage engines is always good. Having a commander that doesn't provide card advantage is kind of bad. But if you really think about it, it's sort of like the Thrasios decks where like you just kind of want, like when I play Cheese Rush, I kind of just want one piece of card advantage that can kind of like help me get to that mid game. And with Orvar, what you really want is you want that one piece of card advantage that you can copy multiple times so that you're like totally unbeatable. So like, they go to remove the Rhystic Study. Okay, make a copy of Rhystic Study in response. Like that's something I've had happen to me, like with an Abrupt Decay too. Like usually you think, I got Abrupt Decay, I can handle this Rhystic Study. No, you really can't. So I like this deck. I'm not sure that it's like really, really good, but it's better than Teferi, which is like always a good place to be in. That deck used to be very good. Now it's pretty bad, I'd say. Orvar, I think, is better than that deck, so that's pretty good. And we've got Siskel and Ebert. Ebert? I can't say names. This is Ken's Clark Clones. That's the name of the archetype, I guess. cEDH deck. So we actually talked to Ken a few months ago about this list. It was pretty fun to look at, and it was pretty fun to play against. I think it needed a little tune-up, so it wasn't accepted during the last DDB review round. There were some cards I think that needed to be added. I think a lot of the other reviewers at the time felt the same way. Looks like they feel differently now, which is really great to see. I'm always happy to see Ken, be a successful part of the community, and it looks like he's created a really interesting deck. He's fostered a really fun community, and a lot of people like playing it. I play a few times a week now. I've been really busy with school, and I see the Siskel and Ebert deck a lot of the time. There's really always someone who's trying to figure it out, someone who's always trying to tune it. I'm not sure it's really it's definitely not the best deck to play. Like, you're not playing this deck because you want to win. You're playing this deck because you want to play like one of the coolest decks in the format, and it is. Coin flips are fun. We're going to see another coin flip deck actually today, which is really cool. And I love coin flips. It's one of my favorite things. I'd say Pirates and coin flips are 2 of my favorite things in Magic, and so I'm really happy to see this deck is powerful and able to compete and able to be played in an optimized environment. Even if it's, if you're trying to go into for a tournament, you probably don't want to play this deck. For example, I was playing in a game the other day with my Paco and Halden deck. My opponent cast a Snap with both commanders out, right? So they just need one of the coins to flip heads, and my Paco's in my hand. If they cast it, they both end up tails. The card goes back to their hand. They tap out to cast it again, and they flip tails again twice. So my Paco stays in play. I win the game pretty easily from there. So you know, that that's like a 6% chance or 3% chance or something ridiculous like that was going to happen. Uh, it it does happen though, so that's why some people might be afraid of the deck. But yeah, I love seeing it here. It's a sweet deck, and Ken's done a great job, fighting for it. And this is gonna be the last list we're talking about in this section, which is the Brewer's Corner. This is Underworld Extortionist, a Omnath Locus of Creation deck. So it looks like this is just like a 4-color Breach deck. I'm a pretty big fan of that. Breach and Extortionist deck. I really like Omnath. I think it's pretty powerful. I don't think it's better than Thrasios and Kiri or Thrasios and Bruce, but I think it offers some really interesting things. And anytime you have like a commander like this that has some type of like value in the game outside of just like drawing cards, like this is a Wrath. This commander can Wrath, and that will come up sometimes. So I guess it's not Wrath. It's each opponent needs Planeswalker. But be able to kill a Narset or a Jace, that comes up in some metas. Or if you have a person who plays Siskel pretty often, like having a commander where if I made 3 land drops one turn, I can kill a couple Planeswalkers. That comes up in some metas, and so I like just having an option for weird commanders like this, especially at the high color combinations. I know a lot of people feel differently. Like, hey, the more colors you have, the higher standard we should hold the deck. But in my mind, it's kind of the opposite. Like, the color combination, like the more colors you have, the better the deck really can be, regardless of commander. And so I think we should show off decks that are more unique. So this is Underworld Extortionist. Looks like it's on some Cloudstone loops. Looks like it's on some Underworld Breach stuff. So I think at a certain point, we kind of all know what this deck's going to look like. Maybe it has some unique things that separated it, but I'm not going to look too much at it. I have a friend named Sage who has a list that they've been tuning for quite a bit, so I play against that a lot. So my opinions on the commander are largely based off of that. So, but happy to see it. Again, like I said, I love this color combination. I love this commander. And, I thought it was weird that it wasn't up here already, so happy to see it. And our first deck on the Decklist database, the main competitive section, is 50% of the time I lose every time. So this is a Cindersplit Ocon deck. This is the other coin flip deck I was talking about. This deck is so sick. So you have these card advantage engines in the command zone. If you're not familiar, every time you win a flip with Cindersplit, you draw a card. So you have these card advantage engines in the command zone. They're 5 mana. You all know how I feel about 5 mana commanders. You have really cool 1-card combos. So there's these 2 creatures. They're a Frenetic Efreet and Frenetic Sliver. And they just say like 0 mana flip a coin basically. They die if you lose the flip, but so it's kind of weird. But you draw your deck if you have it on the field with Cindersplit. There's a weird thing where I think if you get infinite if you get infinite coin flips, you need a way to bounce the Cindersplit, because I think you die if you, like, let's say you win 1,000 coin flips, like I think you die. So I think you have to bounce the Cindersplit in response to the coin flips at some point. But I think that's how that works. I've never played the deck, but that's my familiarity. So this deck's really cool. It also got some really spicy tech lately. Like you can see the Teferi Master Time, the Jeweled Lotus, Jeska's Will. These are all cards that obviously made the deck more powerful. Being able to, have a Cindersplit out, cast Jeska's Will, draw 3 cards, make a ton of mana, play your other commander, go to combat, draw like 1 or 2 more cards, or 0 cards, is pretty sweet. Drawing a card during your upkeep off your mana crypt, also pretty sick. So yeah, this is one of my favorite blue-red commander pairs. I think a really good comparison would be like Breaches and Malcolm. Those are probably actually better-ish, but you have those 1-card combos that are kind of difficult to tutor for in this color combination. Thankfully, you do have some tutors like Imperial Recruiter, but if you've seen a list like that, like a Breaches Malcolm deck, this is obviously not going to be on extra turn spells and stuff like the Breaches deck usually is, but I think you kind of get an idea for what 80 to 90 of the cards in the deck are going to be. You're probably just playing the good blue-red stuff. I actually, a little backstory. This is one of the, so if you wanted to become a reviewer, there was like a test you had to take, and this deck was on the test, and I forget exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was along the lines of like, would you accept this on the DDB? And I was like, Absolutely. Maybe not, but I really want to. So I might be remembering that incorrectly. If Sinester's in the comments or another reviewer, leave a comment. Tell me why I'm wrong. But I'm sure I'll have other reasons to tell me why I'm wrong. But if I think that's how the story went. So yeah, super excited. I love coin flips. Coin flips and pirates. I'm not a huge fan of Cyclops, but I don't hate him. So coin flip Cyclops, pretty good. And we have another blue-red Storm deck here. It's Joyra Storm the Weatherlight. So this is another blue-red Storm deck with Joyra. I'm pretty sure Joyra hasn't been on the DDB for a few months, maybe a couple years. Can't exactly say how long. But I had a friend named Ben who's been pretty passionate about this archetype, so I'm sure he's happy to see this updated. This deck list is actually pretty cool. It's got some neat stuff like Bergie. It has like the typical Joyra stuff you'd expect. A lot of artifacts. You'll get 29 artifacts in the deck list there. So, obviously, Red's gotten a lot of really powerful tools like Jessica's Will and Bergie and Dockside Extortionist and Underworld Breach. I actually should make sure that this deck is on Underworld Breach, because sometimes they aren't. Yeah, they're on Underworld Breach. So yeah, little behind the scenes view right there. But so obviously that's pretty sick. Very happy to see more blue-red stuff on the DDB. Blue-red's pretty fun. It's kind of limited archetype. You've got a lot of card draw, a lot of card selection, and with Bergie now you have a lot of acceleration and card advantage too, like an ad nauseum of sorts, especially with Joyra. So yeah, I think this archetype's in a pretty good spot. If you notice, like, that's two blue-red decks. I think blue-red has really gotten a push with the power-up from red. So pretty excited to see all that. Finally, we have the piece of resistance from Turbonaz. So I am sure you were horribly offended by this awful accent I tried to do just now, but you won't be offended by the beautiful list we have in front of us by Nadix. It's a your raw Turbonaz list. It has a primer. It tells you how to win the game. You play turbo shit. So this deck list is really fun. This deck list is really cool, really popular. I think people have figured out there is like you really do want something in the command zone, I think, besides just like a 0-mana creature. But if you want to play turbo and you want to be the fastest deck at the table and you don't want to play Corvold, little dig right there. I think this is a great list. I think great commander pair. I think if you want to be in Grixis, I think you do have quite a bit of options now. And there's really a full spectrum of value and speed. So, you have your Jalevas, a lot of value. You have your Kess, a lot of value. You have your Malcolm and Vial Smasher, which also made it on the DDB. We can take a look at that in a minute. I think you really have a variety. You obviously have Krom and Tevish Zot, which is insane, super grindy. So you really have a variety of decks now, and now you can take this like Grixis core and really kind of just like pick a deck, pick a direction, pick a speed, pick a grind plan, pick some engines. Do you want to play your Adnaz and your Peto? Do you just want to play Adnaz? Do you want to play grinding station or no grinding station or stuff like that? Each deck is going to have different wants and needs and desires. So I think this is a great deck to have on the DDB, and a lot of people were missing it from the last round, but it just I don't think anyone submitted a list that was quite ready. There might have been one in the Brewers Corner, but I know it was kind of like we need to find one of these situations. So happy to see Nadix submitted a list, and there actually is another list. But this one has the primer, so I picked this one, and I know Nadix, and maybe I'm a little biased, so I can admit that. All right, so yeah, we're gonna look at the Vial Smasher Malcolm list, and then I think that'll be it. So here it is, Kazu's Malcolm Necropotence deck. So yeah, this is what you'd expect. It's a Malcolm deck. It's a Vial Smasher deck. So it's a Grixis Malcolm deck. You got your one-card combo in Glidhorn Buccaneer. Super powerful. And you've got your black tutor densities, so you can really easily tutor for it. Although you can always just, play your Adnaz. Still pretty good. So yeah, and having a commander in the command zone that fixes your mana obviously does make Necropotence a lot better. That makes a ton of sense to me. This is one of the I think Krom Tevish does it better, but I think having a deck where Jeweled Lotus is legitimately one of the best cards in the deck is really important. I think if you're building a deck right now, you want that. You really want a commander that can take advantage of Duelist. The card is busted, and you should. It's like, why would you not play a deck that can't play Black Lotus, right? Like, if Black Lotus is free, you get to play Black Lotus in our format for free. There's no points, there's no cost of entry. You should play one that can play Black Lotus, and so that's my logic. And so I think that's an advantage that this deck has over, say, Jaleva or Kess or something. Maybe those decks do play it, but I think Malcolm's really good with Jeweled Lotus. I've been very impressed. Being able to convert that 0 mana rock into a 3 mana body that attacks, has evasion, makes more mana, can be used towards like a Culling the Weak effect, or as a piece towards your 1-card combo, is really good. So big fan. I haven't played this list personally, but I've been playing a lot of Malcolm. I played especially Timna Malcolm. That's the deck that I'm most obsessed with right now for Malcolm. But yeah, I've seen the teamer list. I've played a lot with Libertas, who's on that team of people working on that list. So yeah, great list. That's going to be it for our DDB discussion. I'm going to close this window real quick. Yeah, so what do you all think of the DDB right now? I know there's a lot of controversy whenever decks don't get admitted or do get admitted, and I recently resigned as a DDB reviewer, so I can say a little bit more of my opinions on this, but I think the DDB reviewers do an amazing job, and it's really underappreciated in my mind. I think people have no idea how much work goes into it. There are people who spend, a lot of hours. There are people who spend a ridiculous amount of hours reviewing deck lists. I think the team, and guilty of me personally, I was probably the person who cared the least about this, but the team really tries to not be biased. I would try to be aware of my bias, but if I knew someone was very good at deck building, I would, as a DDB reviewer, I knew that everyone felt differently, so I tried not to let that bias affect me. But out of respect for the other reviewers, but I felt personally that if someone's really good at it, they're really good at it. But the other people, and maybe some of you would be happy I'm not a reviewer anymore because of this, but the other people do an amazing job avoiding that bias, and they try their absolute best, and it's very important to them. And to me, it was kind of just like, yeah, we shouldn't be biased, but I know that if I know someone's really good at deck building, I know they're good at deck building. But these other people don't feel that way. They feel very strongly. They want to be completely unbiased. They don't want it to affect their opinion at all. And out of respect for them, I try to do the same. But they feel really strongly about that. And so if you feel like there's any bias at the DDB, you should be happy I'm gone. I mean, I tried my best, and I really, out of respect for them, because I respect those people quite a lot. But the other people, they're very, it's a core to their foundation of how the DDB should be run. And so whenever a deck doesn't get accepted, I'm like, yeah, that was probably the right call. There's a lot of decks in the DDB that, in my opinion, shouldn't be. And so for a deck to get on, it usually, in my opinion, means that it went through a pretty stringent process that I think the bar could be a little higher. So I think they do an amazing job, and I've read the reviews. There are some people whose reviews are pretty short, but a lot of people, the reviews are quite long. And some you'll know who the people are who are long. You know the ones who won't be, if you ever get in a discussion with any of the reviewers. But the people who keep their reviews short, they're usually right, and the people who keep their reviews long, they're usually right. So all in all, I trust their opinions quite a bit. I love the DDB. I love what it does for the community. I love that it allows there to be an entry point for people, and I think people have to remember that if you have so many deck lists on the DDB that people can't look through it and people can't read it and it isn't easy to understand, the purpose is lost. So you can't have 300 decks on the DDB, and there are hundreds and hundreds of decks every month being submitted, and so you have to understand a very tiny amount of decks can be accepted or the DDB becomes unreadable. And so at some point, it's not arbitrary, but it's like little things that you might say, like, hey, that's like not a big deal. Like, I had a friend who submitted a list and it was missing Dispel, and I remember being like, yeah, that's in this type of deck list you need a Dispel, and there's another person who submitted a list very similar to it and they had a Dispel, and that was it. So Yeah, it's that might not be exactly how it went, but it's those kinds of things that happen where it's like, yep, they missed a staple that this archetype, in our opinion, should be running. Someone else had it. Maybe they had another thing or two. It's usually not one card, but it's usually a package or something like that where it's just they're missing something. In our opinion, that's we've got 300 deck lists to look at. So I'm not a reviewer anymore. I can't speak for the DDB, but that was my experience. I trusted DDB quite a bit, and I trusted them before. They had been making a lot of changes that improved it. I trust them now afterwards, and they're still making a lot of changes to improve it. I know that they're talking right now about changing the recommended system, which I think is flawed, in my opinion, but hopefully the change will be better, and every change up until now has been a dramatic improvement. And the reason that is because there's a team of people working on it quite a bit, and they're spending hours of their life working on something that has very little reward for them personally. They're just doing this because they want to help the format grow and be healthy, and we're really lucky to have people who are so passionate. So, comments you think I'm an idiot, please leave them below in the comment section. I'll try to leave a link to the Decklist database, maybe some of the links to my favorite decks that we talked about in the video. And I hope you check out the Patreon, the Discord, especially the Discord. I've been really enjoying conversations I've been having with people on there, and I always want to have more. So, and then if you're a patron, you get access to the secret channels like Secret General and Bling, and we've got like a little buy-sell group where people sell cards, usually for pretty good deals. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check out the Patreon. I try to put out videos weekly of varying quality. I try to hop on streams when I can with people, although it's probably going to be taking a pause from that for a bit, just because it can be kind of stressful, and I've had a lot less time. So if you want to see more Greedy Keeps, leave some comments below about what Greedy Keeps you want to see. If you hate me, type in the comments why you hate me. If you're Ano, I know you already typed in the comments before you saw me say this, so yeah, I got you. And have a nice night. Have a good day, whatever you got to do. See ya.